This is Coaching Matters channel. So I have a special treat tonight. I thought I would do something a little different. Well, I don't know about different, but we've done this before, but we've never done it this way. So welcome everybody. This is Coach Carla Nicole. I have a guest tonight, which is Satori Seals. Welcome, Satori, to my channel. I'm so glad you're here. So tonight we are going to talk about how celebrity love affairs that's often talked about, but we never really get to the meat and potatoes of how they're working. We hear a lot about the drama, the divorces, the madness, and all of the negatives. But I was having a conversation with Satori one night, and I was telling him that I was really moved by how I noticed Halle Berry has really become so radiant since she is in her new relationship with Van Hunt. And so I was telling him, I said, man, I said, just to look at her pictures, I mean, she's beautiful. Like her radiance is just beaming off of these pictures. And I'm like, it's one thing to be in a relationship, but it's a whole nother thing when a relationship brings you to this whole new radiance that, you know, is really powerful. So I talked to him about that because we were just discussing how, in relationships, a lot of times you have these different scenarios where the relationships are going well, or they're really powerful, and there's just this new, I don't know, it just seems like they just go into this beautiful side to themselves, a new growth in themselves, a new empowerment in themselves. And so I said, you know what, Satori? I said, as much as we do these living soul readings, I said, we talk about how different, celebrities have different things going on, but I would like to talk about what is really working with Halle Berry and Van Hunt, because I'm gonna tell you, I see it, it's beautiful, and we have to bring the living soul into this, and let's find out what's going on. Hello and welcome. So please, let's do this tonight. I'm excited. I really want to know about these numbers. Numerology is powerful. We have a powerful guidance system called the Living Soul. And so we're going to actually take the Living Soul reading, and we're going to talk about what we see in their beautiful numbers. I think she's beautiful anyway, but now that she's with Van Hunt, she's just went to a whole nother level. So I was like, let's find out what's going on with them. So welcome, Satori. Why don't we talk a little bit about what I said about Halle and Van, and you can even introduce yourself a little bit and tell people who you are and what you do, and then we can go from there.
Okay.
Hi,
So so peace everybody. I'm Satori Seals, and so I'm in the Living Soul Numerology system. I am what we call a soul guider, and then I also have several books that are out. And if anybody's kind of interested, kind of tapping into, more of the numerology piece, they can kind of tap into my Patreon, and we'll put a link there. I actually just released a book called The Phases of Femininity, which is kind of talk about the different phases based off of the energetic dynamics that's behind women, the different phases they go through in their life, so forth. So I do like energy body work for the Wisdom Zen body flows. I travel over the country, pretty much weekly, serving and empowering women through the science and art of touch. And then also I provide life coaching, wisdom coaching, life consulting, and so forth. So I'm on here with Carla Nicole. And
welcome everybody. So glad you guys are here. Make sure to subscribe to my channel because Satori will come on periodically. We never know when we're going to go live. We're going to get moved by what celebrities look well. There's different ones we're already kind of poking and prodding into their love affairs now. So just stay attuned. Make sure to share the video. Make sure you follow his channel. It's Satori Seals on YouTube. So please go and check him out as well. So welcome everybody. So we want to talk about Van Hunt and Halle Berry. The reason why we talked about this couple is because I told him that I noticed her radiance and her beauty since she's been in this relationship with Van. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at the numbers, Satori, and let's kind of figure out what's going on with these two. They have a little bit of a beautiful union, I think, that we might find out what the numbers is going to show us.
Yeah, they have a really nice dynamic. Looked like somebody had a question
Oh,
in the thread or whatever. Just to give you a heads up.
okay.
But 20 baby mamas. Okay, anyways, let's keep it moving. But
Okay.
yeah, so they have a real nice dynamic. Holly
Right. Halle
and
Berry and Van Hunt. Yes.
yeah, it is pretty very obvious, right? The level of radiance that you was talking about.
Yep.
Um, Often that when we have relationships, they are present to bring more of the beauty out of us. Oftentimes we get caught up in the negative narratives, but the relationships are here to expand us and bring out the beauty of us, because at the end of the day is life is 85% relationships, right? So very
Absolutely.
important, so if you have a good relationship, it's going to bring out the beauty. If you don't have a good relationship, it's going to bring out the uh
The
the
resistance, the negativity, the nonsense.
yeah, just to bring out the gray hue over you, right? So
Absolutely.
with that in mind, Holly and Van Hunt, they have a lot of light on them. As you appear when you look at them, it's just a natural beauty that they bring out of each other. And so, getting to the numbers, like you asked, so what's pretty
Yes.
interesting. So I guess we can kind of kick it off like this: like, what's the center of attraction for them, right? So everyone's kind of following. In the living soul numerology system, there's primary four numbers that kind of dictates how we're moving in life.
Yep.
Um, it's based on a number system between 1 through 9. We all visit those, but we all have four primary influential dominant numbers that's kind of pretty much shaping how we're moving. And each number kind of represents the emotional force we're operating in, the egoic force we're operating in, the gravitational force, and the psychic force that's going in, as we mentioned in another episode.
Right.
Maybe one more insight on that, you can kind of tap to my Patreon for more of that information. So so the four numbers, and we call them soul numbers, right? That's assigned to Holly
Yes.
is 8548.
Yes. And these numbers are based upon her birth date. So you guys know this is where we are accumulating the numbers and the information from her birth date.
Yeah, based off her
Okay.
alignment. And
Right.
then Van Hunt's number is
881.
3881.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so right off the rip, we all can just be like, oh, we see there's a conjunction, right? We see there's a lot of eights in
Yes.
their mix. So obviously, and the eight is coming from the aspect of ourselves, the social part of ourselves. So Holly and Van Hunt has a strong, intimate bond and a gelling that centers and revolves around their social dynamic of themselves. So probably among themselves, they're probably very expressive. They probably have very good, stimulating conversation. Communication is is their superpower for their relationship. Um, so that's obviously there. Then also they actually have some high attractive number sequences. And so Holly's 5 to Van's 3,
Mm-hmm.
that's a high attractive, right? So Holly's ego is really soothed by the emotional intelligence that Van Hunt puts out. Um, so that's, what I'm saying, her sense of self, a sense of importance, it's really comfortable with Van Hunt's 3. And the
Okay.
reason why, when you tap in deeper in the 3, which is
Mm-hmm.
interesting, because the 5 is the ego alignment, but the 3 is also from the ego space, even though it's
Right.
from the emotion. So Van Hunt's emotional gateway comes through the ego, which is more selfless. And so Holly enjoys a level of selflessness that Van Hunt brings to her, and it does her ego, uh, her sense of self very well. So basically, Van Hunt's emotional dynamic
Okay.
soothes Holly's ego.
Okay.
So and she loves that selflessness, that intentionality, that
Right.
sense of purpose. And then with that, there's fire, air, and
Mhm.
metal in it, right? And you look
Right.
at their eights, the elements they have in that is fire, air, metal as well. So they have a lot of fire, a lot of air, and there's a
Right.
lot of metal. So
Which
they are
intensifies their passion. It
absolutely,
intensifies their ability to communicate. It actually intensifies their their willingness to be free within themselves first and free within that relationship, which I think also builds that fire and helps that intensity and helps that, that love affair to really blossom and be more
yeah.
solid.
And what's interesting, you said that to can add on. So, Holly has a 4.
Right.
And so, excuse me. So the 8
Yep.
does very well with the floor, and the 4 represents that lover energy.
Yes.
So, so they love the sense of stability. Their love style and their flow is really their intimacy is really rooted in their social dynamic and their ability to be able to communicate. And based off of their energy scores, the relationship gravity score, as you was mentioned a little bit earlier,
Right.
is when we talk about the push and pull aspect, the pull of Holly and Van Hunt is a 68% pull. So that means
So
they gravitate.
let's also give an understanding of what push and pull mean. So the pull dynamic that we're discussing is how much they pull towards each other as far as energetically, how they pull, how they draw basically towards each other. And the push is when we push away or resist. So that's
Right.
how we find ourselves in relationships a lot of times. When you don't have the living soul reading or understanding, you have no idea about your push and pull dynamic. If you look on the thumbnail, you see their numbers show very clearly that there is a strong pull in their relationship. It's over 68%. So that's powerful in and of itself. In that, meaning that that's an invisible force that they're drawing towards each other. In most of our relationships we get involved in the beginning, yes, we feel like we have a lot of pull because we're attracted. But is that an energetic pull? Not always. We just feel like it is because we're attracted, but it's not
Right.
necessarily that it's an energetic pull like that.
And
So,
when you have a strong pull like
yep,
this, like a 68% pull, you
right.
literally could among each other if you're able to be blessed to have that type of level of pull to share with somebody.
Absolutely.
You feel that pull literally. Hey, how
Yes.
you doing, Latin's on here? Um, you know, you feel that pull, and then the
Yes,
same vice versa. People that has a lot of push, you can feel the push. If you got a high push,
right.
so you can really feel that. And so when
Yes.
we look at it, they had their resilience score is really really high, very good resilience score, which is a plus 36, and that just simply refers to the emotional buffer, right?
Yes.
They have a
So
lot.
let's
They have a
talk about
lot.
that before you go into real deeply with that resilience score. So resiliency is very important in love affairs. A lot of times we don't realize how powerful resilience is. So your resilience score, you just said they have a resiliency score of what again?
Plus 36%, 36%.
Percent. That is powerful because whenever we go through our challenges or our disrupts in our relationships, sometimes we'll have a disconnection or a argument or disagreement, and we'll pull away. But when you have a strong resilience, the long term effect of those pullaways or those frustrations or discord isn't as often because the resiliency helps us to build a buoyancy and a great get back to each other.
You stay afloat.
Yes.
So, with that, so for clarity for everybody, like we said, so we're talking about that pull, we're talking about 68%. We're talking about the
60.
push,
Yes.
it's a 32% push. And here's the thing, what I love about this is that some people, we go ahead and say this right now, because everybody get caught up in, the perfection. And I've been saying a lot lately with my, different clients and stuff like that,
Right.
Just get rid of this perfection thing, because the perfection is inside the imperfection. So a good relationship is going to have a degree of conflict. The
Yeah.
issue is, how strong is that conflict? Will it overbear the energetics of the relationship? So we see with Van Hunt and Holly Berry is
Right.
that their 32% push has no main bearing on the energetic dynamic. So it actually, instead of being, it's actually more of a signal of an opportunity for growth, due to they having that strong resilient score. So
Yes.
with that in mind, it allows them to be able to navigate obstacles when they come up. If they do come up, they probably hardly ever have any really uh disrupts among.
Long term unforgiveness where it lasts and lasts for days and days. You're not talking, you're not speaking. You're not going to find that in this type of love affair. Right.
Nah, nah. Yeah, you're not going to really find that.
Which is
And
good.
one good thing, yeah, yeah, yeah. And one good thing is due to the fact they have this strong sense of this social and this expressive dynamic.
Right.
I think, because they are seasoned and mature adults, a lot of times I tell people when I sit down with them and consult or coach them, I let them know, especially in the relationship aspect, is that communication is your fortress. That is your point of defense. And
Period.
so, when we look at Van Hunt and Holly Berry's
Hmm.
um, energetic dynamic, and look at their soul numbers,
Yes.
we can look like and be like, hey, they have a high, they're more than likely they have built a great fence around their connection, union, however you want to classify it.
Their love connection.
You know,
Yes.
their love
Absolutely.
connection. So
Yes.
so they more than likely have a great wall, a great language between them, that
Those
they
two.
both,
Yes.
they ain't worried about nobody on the outside, that
Right.
they understand, and it's encrypted for them,
Yes.
and they operate by that code or
Hmm.
codes or whatever it is, and
Right.
they work it very well. And I think that what we see, like when you see them, it looks very refreshing. When you just kind of witness them on, like, on IG. I see them a lot on, just a little different IG, or you see them, just being captured. They're
Right.
just enjoying each other. They're not into the superficiality engagement.
Right.
That's one thing. Holly Berry's numbers, that's one, she's really, and they're both into authenticity, right? So they have this sense of, man, we just gonna just be. And you get that
Right.
off of their vibe when you see them capture in their pictures and things, or video and stuff like that.
Right.
So when we talk about that, we said the high attraction point. We know there's the eights, right? We know they're good for. So
Yes.
it's a very good, very, very, very good flare. Um, Also, when we talk about their elements,
Hmm.
uh, really advanced elements, they have strong air. Both of them got very good air quality. Ironically, right? You got the soul
Right.
communicator going on.
Yes.
Um,
Right.
They have, they share a good degree of fire, very passionate, creative energy. That makes sense. Van Hunt's a dynamic musical artist, and Holly Berry, we know, A-lister actor. So I mean,
Period.
whatever,
Yes.
yeah.
Right.
So
But one of the
you see,
things that I love about what we've noticed from her, if you can tell from her past relationships, not to bring them up, but to bring them up, if you can tell by her past relationships, you see how Halle has really evolved away from getting so accustomed to um just focusing
superficiality.
merely on the superficiality, or focusing merely on just the frill and the excitement of the relationship. This wholesomeness in this love affair you can feel even on the pictures, or on in their energy field. You can feel it because you see how it has blossomed, both of them. They both have grown from the love affair alone, and you could tell it from their air quality, like you're just speaking of, and how dynamic that element alone has really helped to just enhance what they already have with each other.
Yeah,
They share in that. They share in that.
yeah, they do, they do. And I like how you talk about the superficiality, which is interesting. So when you look at their elements, especially with Holly,
Hmm.
um, and sometimes when we go through life, we have to just find ourselves and find how we work and
Right.
navigate different spaces.
Right.
and some people bring out certain things or and heighten certain things. But due to Holly and actually Van Hunt, they score real low in the earth wood uh,
Mm,
element. But
okay.
so one of the things that you might see when someone lacks, or has a low score of the earth wood
Yes.
is like we mentioned with Holly. She kind of got caught up in some superficial type of relationship engagements that wasn't, you know,
Hmm.
that's the default. And then when you look at her numbers, not to go too deep and get into her soul state, but she does around the ego. Sometimes she wrestles with finding that balance. I think she's obviously she what she exudes, she's found that balance. And I think the strong point with Van Hunt, and to give them credit, like I mentioned earlier, from her five is in her ego spot to his emotional lineup, she gets that level of soothing. So we can kind of, I didn't go into her past relationships, but you
Right.
more than likely we can just assume she didn't get that level of egoic soothing that
Right.
she needs, because she within herself sometimes can get overworked. Basically,
Absolutely.
and that overwork kind of can shift you and feel out of balance, and either you're over committing to things, you're working too hard, you're kind of getting lost in the fray of things.
And what
And
feminine phase was she in?
um
In the beginning, when she was dealing with the other
well,
previous
yeah, the
relationships, as
age.
an example, the phases that a woman is in or grows from it has a
Yeah,
definite impact on how she actually grows
yeah, how
from
she
that.
process.
You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah,
So I think that that's really a powerful thing that you're saying. We don't realize that we do grow and blossom from a lot of things
yeah,
from where we are in our feminine energies in the
yep,
beginning.
yep. And as you're doing it, so I think we all kind of witness some of those things, right?
Absolutely. Yes. I think we don't ever really acknowledge it because we never really had the living soul to kind of actually use as a source of truth to give us an understanding of, well, you know what, when I was in this, I was finding myself kind of challenged, but now that we are in a relationship that is more cultivating to what is really more in alignment with me in my soul numbers, you can see
Right.
how she has just blossomed. I'm talking
Yeah,
about, I told you, I contacted you personally and said we need to do these numbers because Halle, even when she's taking photos without it even showing her face, her
yeah, it's very,
beauty is radiating off those pictures
yeah,
beyond what it
very,
has ever done before.
yeah. And it's seen it, and that's the result of high energy, strong
Absolutely.
gravity.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that's what it looks like.
Right.
When people have a strong gravity, there's just a light and a life that just
Yes.
comes across in their essence, in their
Yes.
exuding, and it becomes very inspiring, and it draws other people in. So I want to kind of dial into the element part of, 'cause we know all these great. So what's the Achilles heels for them in their relationship, where
Right.
that 30% push might come in at. And
Okay.
more likely it'll probably come in from the earthwood, the low score of that, and they kind of have a low score in the water. So when we
Okay.
think about earth, we're like, oh, stability. So how their relationship having a sense of stability in this level of radiance. Well, what's interesting in their dynamic, they're not really pulling from the earthwood for the sense of stability. They're pulling from their sense of stability from the air and the metal. So their sense of nurturing or whatever
Right.
comes from those different aspects. And
Okay.
so there's a level of a creative thing, a level of resiliency. So it's built into them. But it's interesting that it's not really coming from the earth element because they have a low score in that, but they have
Mm.
a very good presence of the metal and the air. So
Right.
they breathe more like they breathe life. I think one episode we talked about
Yep.
one couple, they lack the air. I think we was talking about Tia and Corey, and not to
And
go
Corey,
over,
right. Yes.
but I'm making it the point that I think I mentioned in that episode
Right.
that they lack air. They lack the air part. We're talking about how sometimes we lose sight of the importance of breathing life into each other. breathing life to our lover or lovers, or however you
Right.
want to classify, or and breathe life into the relationship. So breathe life into me, breathe life into the relationship, and
Right.
breathe. Holly and Van in this situation, they probably have more of a heightened awareness because they probably naturally default and they speak life into each other, which you kept talking about, like, man, she's radiant. Well,
Yes.
think about it. You got a lot of air going on, and someone's very mindful of it. There's a lot of life being pumped into you. You
Absolutely.
know, so
And
so that
I
brings.
also think that Halle has a tendency, from what we can see, even from her, the way she's moving now, you can feel a more of a relaxing spirit.
Absolutely.
You don't feel that she is you know, in a rush anymore. She's more present in her life.
Present and patient.
You can
She
feel it. You
Yeah.
can literally feel her presence and her patience. And then you also feel the comfort, the
Yeah.
ease she's feeling for being
Yeah.
just here and feeling and being able to actually have a nice, eager response to a love affair that's welcoming to her spirit. So Hallie's now able to be, if you want to be real honest about the soul, the living soul, she can be naked inside of that love affair
Yeah, I'm
and
glad you
not
said that.
hide by and not hide behind insecurities or flaws and things like that, because that can get overwhelming over time. Because no matter how beautiful of a woman we are, we have a tendency to sink our souls into insecurities of what we're not, based upon our physical being. But I feel like Halle has up I mean, she's really just rose above this now in this love affair, because you can feel on her spirit that she has really gotten comfortable in her nakedness, in her soul.
And they have no choice but to do that because the level of the high vibes that they share. Um, and as you're talking about that level of radiance and that sense of, like, oh, just that sense of balance, I'm not in a rush. Well, when you go at their numbers,
Mm,
the eight again, they have a lot of eights, and that eight in Holly's four, love, relationships, she's getting a lot of harmony there. It generates energy in the gravity with that number combination in their sequence. It brings a level of harmony. So
yes,
we're going to see that come from her, and that's why
yes.
we're witnessing that. And you're seeing it, and he's comfortable, in
Oh,
his
yes, absolutely.
in essence, because that type of exchange. I mean, so
Yes.
it's interesting to witness because even Van Hunt has his life path is a one.
Okay.
His living story is a one, and
Okay.
so interesting. His one is very highly productive with the eight. So with all their eights, and then so even the emotional charge is just real interesting in their dynamic. When it makes sense why we see such a nice relationship gravity score with them being a
Mm,
68,
love it.
pull.
Yes.
They have no it just so they probably when they're apart, they can feel each other's pull. That's where we want to be at.
That's where you want to
For
be.
those
Yes, because
for
and
those
it's
who share
not a
love.
suffocate. Let's be honest. It's not a
Yeah,
suffocating pull. Because sometimes you can
no,
be in relationships where you're suffocating and you're doing too much and you're over the top
that's
with
a
it.
drag. That's a drag.
This is more of a this is a welcoming, like I like to continue to call it. There's a welcoming energy with their pull, because both of them have that resonance, and they also have that appeal with each other. And then
Right.
they have a powerful listening and understanding of each other's souls. So you don't
Right.
have to constantly be in a disarray because you can't understand me. There's not a lot of misunderstandings. The communication's very similar, so they can relate. All of these things are powerful, which helps to advance the love to a new level, because now you're feeling like, man, we just keep having this renewal. We don't
Well,
have a lot of pullback.
yeah, it's a renewal, and people forget relationships should be generative,
Right.
right? And so that sense of renewal, that sense of refreshing should be continual. So when we see a high
Yes.
gravity score like this, we can expect for that being inside the dynamic. So I know as we get ready to kind of close, I want to point out some key things about them.
And before you
Um,
go into that, before you close, I want to say this. Anyone interested in getting your own reading on you personally, one on one, or you in your love affair that you have, or even a prospect that you're interested in dealing with, or even any type of reading, please reach out. This is what we do. We do readings and we can provide you the same information that we're giving you on Halle and Van Hunt's love affair. You can get the same. So do not hesitate. You can reach out to me, inbox me here. You can also, we'll have the emails and everything so you can get a hold to us.
well, the link will be there so they can kind of click it, you know. Yeah. Um, so with that, what's one of the strengths in their dynamic, which I find is lovely and is comforting to witness, is that because they have a lot of melt, they have a strong sense of resilience. So interesting, right? In
Right.
their element and even in their soul archetypes, resilience shows up there. But then when you measure it energetically as the score, they have a high resilience score of the
Mm-hmm.
plus 36.
Yeah.
So what that translate as, they have a level of a great sense of emotional buffering.
Yes.
Conflicts linger in their things, so they probably have a natural, great way of mitigating conflicts.
Yeah.
There is a level of social. People talk about emotional intelligence. That's not really
Mm-hmm.
their. That's not their strong suit. But
Right.
social intelligence
Mm.
is very strong with them. They have a very good, strong social intelligence. They have a very good communicative connection, right?
Yes.
And the stability and nurturing that is kind of already naturally built in, but it's just real interesting that it comes from the communicative and their ability both for them to be structured and to have they hold this level of strength, this inner strength that kind of also represents that. So their individuality is very important inside their relationship. And we
Mm.
don't see that a lot because we hear a lot of people sacrificing their individuality for a relationship, which then we know that doesn't lead to great outcomes.
No.
With them in their, when we look at their dynamic, look at their numbers, we see
Yes.
this naturally that they have this level of individuality that never feels like it's being sacrificed. And some of you know, I have a workbook called To Relate, Not Relate, and it's based off the five uh, the pentagons, there's basically five different key points in a relationship we look at to measure to keep it, keep it functional. And
Mm-hmm.
one of those is individuality. And so I just love looking at these numbers right here because it's like, oh wow, this jumps out, right here is that it's not just individuality but there's an inner strength that they both um cultivate inside each other. So with that in mind, that inner strength that they strengthen that in each other, a level of strength. So they breathe life, and think about it. They breathe life into each other, but then
Yes.
they also stimulate each other's inner strength. That's empowering. And
It is.
that's why they have a good relationship forecast for them to be very sustainable, right?
Right.
If they have a dynamic to really have a very enduring and sustainable. Um, they probably don't get caught up in time because there's no need because they're really in the moment, and that's what kind of shows in their that's what kind of shows in their dynamics. So I just wanted to bring that out, before as we kind of close. Okay, you're bucking in and out, so you about ready?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I just close out. I just saw your screen kept blocking out.
Yeah, it was blacking out. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that's one of the things right there is that they have a level of resilience and they stimulate each other's inner strength. And so it's like their will. So what it means is they have a low likelihood for ego clashing. And you think about it, relationship, that's a big issue.
It is.
I'm trying to overpower you. I'm trying to leverage my power and so forth.
Right.
They don't have that inner dynamic.
Well,
But
remember I said that's what I think she used to deal with because
yeah, yeah,
she's
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Jealousy. Like you can imagine all
yeah, all
kinds
that
of petty
stuff.
things
Yes.
going on. But for them, they both are dynamic and they both maintain an individuality. So, like, think about it. Most people can't have individuality and still have your ego uh, not be at war. Typically
Right.
means like I got individuality. Typically, oh, my ego is really at war.
Right.
So we see energetically that's not what's really going on with them. They actually
Right.
stimulate. They actually have a dynamic where they feed each other sense of importance.
Yes.
They feed each other's sense of self autonomy,
Yes.
and then in the result of that, it just builds in their inner makeup and strengthens their willpower, which allows them to have this level of strength, this level of integrity, or relationship integrity
Yes.
a lot of people crave. And so that all comes from this simple fact that they score very well in the metal. And that's why instead of coming from the earth giving the stability, they get the
Right.
stability from the metal. So I just wanted to bring that out before as I close on that, so
I love
people
that.
kind of get
Yeah, because then I think that's important that we understand how powerful, yes, the numbers are powerful. Everything we're learning from the living soul numbers. However, the elements is really showing us a lot. The air, the fire, the earth and wood. This is showing us a lot more about, really the dynamic of how it's actually handled and experienced while you're in a relationship. We miss this part normally when we're getting all these different readings. We miss the part of, oh, there's some there's some elements that I need to be mindful of. And if I'm not, then I can really miss, oh, I didn't know I was low on earth and wood. So now that I understand that, we can actually import certain things to prevent different types of misunderstandings just from the elements alone.
yeah,
Understanding.
and I call it when I see it as like a see stability plan, like for like if like Van Hunt and because probably what happened due to the low earth would
Hmm.
score and low score in the metal. I'm sorry, in the
Right.
water.
Water. Yeah.
So the water also signifies everybody thinks emotion, which that's correct. But another thing
Right.
the water signifies is adaptability. So they both show that they probably can get very frazzled if there's a lot of external pressure coming at them. They
Hmm.
don't really, that's not their forte.
Right.
So if they're kind of, especially being celebs in public, you
Right.
know, I think they do a good job of keeping that at
Keeping that
bay.
to the bay, but again,
Yeah,
and then you mentioned that you said water, and I didn't even think it's adaptability is exactly what we think about when we're thinking about the flow of water.
yeah. So yeah, so that measures their adaptability. So they're
Love that.
not.
Yep.
So there's a lot of obstacles, things that they're coming. They may kind of wrestle more because they just don't. They have resilience. So let me be clear: the metal, which is
Right.
very interesting, they got the resilience. So it's not like
Right.
that. But they probably both of them together,
Hmm.
they had avoidance. Like you know what? Not trying to have all these problems.
Right.
So because they really it just will frazzle them. It'll take them more time, not in their relationship, but just it can shift them. They don't like all that extra
Well, that's
stuff.
because of their past experiences. Of course, that's most
Well, yeah,
likely the reason
and just,
why. They
well, I'm talking about
probably
the
are crystal
energetic piece.
clear.
Yeah, yeah, just the energetic piece.
Yeah.
They don't hold that. They're like,
No.
yo, we don't have the capacity
No.
to hold all the extra stuff that you're trying to import
Right.
into our dynamic, and
Yeah.
that's why they're air and communication defense
Yes.
because especially when you're highly visible, people will just make up. People will say anything to
Of
find
course.
a little. And
Right.
so for them, they're doing a good job by not allowing the outside world import their ideas or their projection Um, because and due to that, they have a low score that they can't have all that in their mix. And they do it from just watching and observing, it seems
Right.
like they got a pretty good handle on that, you know.
Yeah, and
So
that's great. That's great. So yeah, so and I guess the final thoughts on what we see in the reading from what we see from this love connection analysis right here is it looks like it's pretty favorable that they may, be able to endure a lot more than the average couple because they have a lot more
resilient.
understanding, willingness, resilience. They have a focus of growth. They also really have already set the tone as to what they do to keep their relationship private and very intimate. So, where they are very comfortable in their one on one. And if they are separated, due to, work or whatever, like you said, they have a strong pull with each other, even in the distance. So that's huge in and of itself because a lot of couples cannot do that due to just their own insecurities and other things. But they've really, to be honest, they've really excelled and elevated to a higher self in being in this strong relationship. So
I
I love
agree.
it, but that's why I wanted to put the living soul up to the test just to show me because I was like, listen, I've talked about Van Hunt and Halle for a while, and we've been wanting to do this one, and I said I wanted to do this because I really had my own personal thoughts behind how much she has changed for the better since seeing her evolution of who she is now as a woman. Her whole new presence is just powerful. Their one-on-one, I mean, individually looks powerful in and of itself, but their energetic pull with each other is so powerful that you can tell just alone from this living soul analysis shows, oh my gosh, everything I was thinking was correct. I was spiritually picking this up, but when you see the numbers, you see why.
Yep, yep, yep.
Well, I'm so glad everybody came. Make sure to share this video. Be sure to follow Satori Seals and make sure to subscribe to his channel. We will be putting the links in here. Share the video. If you guys want a reading, don't hesitate to let us know. We would love to have you get your own personal living soul reading. These are so powerful, and the accuracy of them is undeniable. Okay? So that's just without a shadow of a doubt. So I want to thank everybody for coming. This is your coach, Carla Nicole, Satori Seals. I want to thank you for coming. And everybody, you guys have a great night. And don't forget to, like I said, watch this again. This is a very powerful video on Van Hunt and the beautiful Halle Berry. It's Coach Carla Nicole. Have a great night, guys. Bye bye.